and you're wondering, why am I not getting any calls? Why is nobody checking my website? I'm not getting any traffic. It's because you don't have a sitemap. And a sitemap is technically the brain of your website.
Welcome to the Simple and Smart SEO Show podcast, where we talk all things brand building SEO, helping you connect with your audience, elevate your visibility, and grow your business. I'm your host, Waddell, here to bridge the gap between SEO strategy and real-world business success by bringing you insights, stories, and conversations from the SEO community and beyond. Whether you're an entrepreneur, marketer, or SEO enthusiast, this is your place to learn, share, and build a brand that stands out. So grab a coffee or your favorite tea, and let's dive into smarter SEO for your business. Welcome back to the Simple and Smart SEO Show podcast. I'm so excited that you're back with me today. And also a dear friend, an old friend that it's just been way too long since we chatted. One of the people who first told me about SEO, the person who said, hey, there's a thing off of social media called SEO that you can do on your website and actually drive people directly to you without using a middleman. And that man is Favour Obasi-ike. He is the founder of We Don't Play at wedon'tplaypodcast.com. And he is an SEO maven and just a superstar in so many different ways. But Favour, it's been way too long. Thank you so much for coming on the Simple and Smart SEO Show podcast.
Thank you so much for having me today, Crystal. It's so good to be here. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So we met back in 2020? Isn't that pretty much the time that we met?
Yeah, time flies. Time has really gone by so fast.
Yeah. In 2020, where were you in your business?
Ooh, 2020. In my business, I was very hungry for growth because I was at a point where I felt like there's so much I know, but I don't know how to tell people what I know. So that's why I also started a podcast, because I was like, yeah, I know all this information. I can put it in a book. I can put it on a blog, but who else is going to hear it that maybe they don't like to read? Maybe they don't like to watch movies. So how will they find the information? So I went back in time and I said, you know what? Radio was one of the first things that people used for communication. So why can't I go into radio mode? And it took me back in time, back in 2011, when I was in school, back in college days. And I remember the teacher was like, what do you guys want to be when you grow up? And I said, I want to own a multinational company. And I also want to have an internet radio station to support it. I didn't know what I was saying. I just talked about it, but I knew that was my goal because I wanted to reach more people, connect with more people, because I'm not just in podcasting, I'm also in music. So I have a background in music as a self-taught drummer, left-handed, taught myself how to play from the age of 6. And then from there, turned music into SEO because I started building a business for my entertainment business company, Working Play Entertainment, which has now morphed into a marketing agency to help businesses all over the world with Web 2 and Web 3 technology. With 2020 looking at the business going forward, I said that the best time to spend time is in communicating with people on a podcast. And that's how I started in 2019, 2020, said I'm a year in, Clubhouse came, and now the rest is history.
Oh my gosh, we've got to talk about Clubhouse. Clubhouse was the best. I know I was thinking about how we met in Clubhouse and also the fact that you had the Pinterest and SEO room, which I think you probably still do, but you were one of the few people who made that connection like I did about Pinterest and SEO, which I thought was so neat. And so that's why I felt an immediate connection with you. And so do you still do things with Pinterest?
Yes, I love Pinterest so much. They're so big these days when it comes to data, especially now because they've incorporated AI too with Pinterest performance. So I've looked at Pinterest and I'm like, if it wasn't for Pinterest, if it wasn't for podcasting, I don't think there would be a way I would be in this position to help other people in that capacity, because God just gave me that idea and said, okay, let's work through Pinterest. Let's work through podcasting. And in my mind, I was like, wait a minute, Pinterest is SEO, because people use Pinterest to consume as Pinterest personal, but there's a Pinterest business side that people don't know about, which is accessible. So I said, you know what, it's time to switch the gear. And that's how I was able to do that. And I still use Pinterest till today. And I've also connected my website as a blog RSS feed. So anytime I have an article, it automatically pushes to Pinterest too.
Okay, I want to take a look at that because I've tried the RSS feed and all I'm getting is a block of text.
So the block of text is an XML file, which is also an RSS feed. So an XML file is an expandable markup language, which is, I would say, like data read by robots or bots or algorithm because they're listening to what you're writing. It's called search listening. So when they're listening to what you're writing based on the thoughts, what you're typing, those are the things that they're indexing into their search engine like Google, Microsoft, Perplexity, ChatGPT, Alexa, and the rest of them. So when you're creating content, that content is already being in your domain property. So when you connect your website to the search console, connect your Pinterest tag, do all the good stuff to connect it, what's happening is you have a HTML hypertext markup language, which is where we read all the blue links that we click on Google. And even right now, if you turn into dark mode, they're doing a test where they're using orange links in dark mode. So things are changing now. So it's like, how are we going to switch into the new phase? Yeah, I'm doing a lot of research.
Okay, so what are orange links? I've never heard of that before.
So orange links are just like blue links. It's just that when you're in dark mode, not everyone has it. It's still in beta. But if you just type on Google search orange links, you'll see an article. I think Search Engine Journal talked about it. The big people talked about it there too. And they even have screenshots. So I was like, this is not true. Really happening. Then one day it happened to me. Then I didn't see it again. So I was like, okay, maybe this is something that they're testing and it might become something in 2025 for dark mode because we're thinking about click-through rates. We're thinking about connections. People use orange a lot for purchasing, for emails. So when you think about that color, there's also a psychological framework to how people click as opposed to them using red or orange. So yeah, that's how you can connect the two.
So when you see an orange link in dark mode, how do you get to dark mode to see it?
So you just have to have your phone settings in dark mode. So most people have them in dark mode or light mode or the default system settings on your phone. And once it's in dark mode, normally when you go to Google, it's white, right? So it's white and blue. When you go to Google in dark mode, usually it's dark or black and blue. Now that blue turns to orange, which is the same hyperlink. Nothing's changed. It's just maybe the paint. I can just say the paint's changed. And then you still click on that link, but it still contributes to your assets back on Google's on search properties. So it's a really good mix into the play.
Okay, so that was like a totally random tangent, but that's what I love about our conversations. But another question about Pinterest. I've used Tailwind for myself and for my clients, but I'm still having some challenges tracking all of the pins and like giving UTM links for all of the pins and then being able to show them, okay, this particular pin and this particular text went to this board on this date and rinse and repeat, all that type of stuff. So I was like, you know what? Maybe I try the spreadsheet upload. And I was wondering, have you ever tried the spreadsheet upload feature over there in Pinterest?
Is it for the email signups, collections, products wise, or is it just content?
It's just content. It's an alternative to the RSS feed. So you can do the RSS feed for bulk uploads and just that content.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I've not done it myself, but I know what you're referring to because when you do a bulk upload, you're uploading it in a CSV file. So you're just uploading everything and it's all within those naming conventions and the fields. Yeah, I've seen that too. And also with the RSS feeds, because you asked me to about the RSS feeds, it's really simple syndication. When you think about a movie or a series, episode 1, season 1, episode 2, and you see how it communicates. So when you see that happening on your website, you now have those content feeds, like you now mentioned with the content uploads, they're now working from A to Z. So if it's working from A to Z, all these algorithms, Amazon, Etsy, Walmart, Target, they all have everything from A to Z. But when you look at Google, it's not A to Z. You're talking about CPC, you're talking about growth charts, you're talking about keyword difficulty because you're working within a different engine box. So when you're using Pinterest, I love that you can use it for content upload purposes or just sync it directly to your content feeder. And that way you can focus mostly on your website because even now you can connect your Instagram to Pinterest and automatically push content there. So I think there's so many ways to go around it, but people kind of get confused because it's too technical even to begin with.
Yeah, with the Instagram thing, there was a period of time back in 2020 where you could connect your Instagram and those pictures would come over, and then that went away. And now it's back again. So it's like, what happened? Do you know why that even occurred?
I feel like it's a love-hate relationship between the two because I'm like, why? Sometimes it's, oh, hashtags work, then the hashtags don't work. And then Instagram is there and then they're not there. I feel like there's something that's happening, but I also feel like it's a good thing coming Because earlier this year, I remember when there was, I don't know if it's going to happen, but it's probably going to happen soon, the way things are going with TikTok, with Pinterest, with Amazon. But Pinterest is also going to be one of those cornerstones next year, because I looked at a 20-year growth chart on all social media platforms last night, and I was surprised to see that LinkedIn and Pinterest are the ones that are really taking the cake for 2025, because they're also incorporating AI as well into their mix. So a lot of people are using Canva. You might just upload something on Pinterest, and then the AI is going to convert that backdrop into something that's going to set up a mood for someone to consider your brand as a purchase. So I feel like the way it's going is going to definitely take a new turn with the way AI is connecting with search engines too.
Okay, so what just popped into my mind would be really valuable is an RSS feed from Canva to Pinterest.
Oh, that would be so good, especially like with carousel posts or GIFs. Because Canva makes websites, but I also believe they're probably going to work on beefing that up a little more. And if they have an XML or an RSS feeder, then that would be really good for businesses. Because when you have a website, anyone who has a website out there, there are over 1.1 to 1.9 plus billion websites globally, and each of them have a domain. All of them have a domain .com, .co, .org, .net. All of them are all out there, and all of them have an XML file, but they're all not readable unless you index them through. If you're using WordPress, you can use the plugins like Yoast, All-in-One SEO, Rank Math. They're all of them out there. If you're on Wix, you can also use their Wix inbuilt SEO system, but those things are not existing if you don't connect them. So sometimes you may have a website and you're wondering, why am I not getting any calls? Why is nobody checking my website? I'm not getting any traffic. It's because you don't have a sitemap. And a sitemap is technically the brain of your website. You know how you say you are what you eat? So if you're feeding your website with links every day, every week, let's say 52 weeks in a year, you've given 50 new links to your website talking about different things that your business does: community news, product news, general news, partnership news. Before you know it, you're connecting with brands, you're doing all these big things because you have search traffic and you have search value. So when people focus more on their website than focusing on social media, they'll get more bang for their buck when they're going back to social media to advertise.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to go back to the tools that you can use for each platform, because let's say I'm on Wix. Is there a specific RSS feeder that you recommend? And I'm thinking we're talking about like a blog, right? And it will pick up your images and send those to Pinterest. Is that how it works?
Yeah, so with Pinterest, when they ask for your blog, they're technically asking for your XML file, because that XML file is coming from your sitemap. So with your sitemap, it's going to be, everyone has one. If you don't see one, it means you haven't set up one. If you have one, it's probably there by default. But most times you want to have one customized for your business. So when you have one on Wix, the one on Wix is already there by default. So when you now go to your website.com/sitemap in one word .xml, then when you hit enter, you're going to see all those blocks of text you were talking about. Now, if you look at the text, it starts from HTTPS, and then it breaks the text, and then it does it again. So those lines of text are the URLs that lead to your visual sitemap on the back end. So that's what the bots are reading. If here's my book, and then somebody's going to scan through the book. So if that book has keywords, if it has images, if it has videos, links, all the good stuff, then that's what's going to send signals to the search engines like Google and Microsoft. That way they're able to connect the two. So when you have it on Pinterest, you now use the XML file for the blog post, and then you use that blog post XML file and then submit it to Pinterest. And that's where your blogs, they start getting to feed out to the search engines with your thumbnail as the cover art on pins.
Okay, that was what I was wondering. I was like, what image goes with that? So the thumbnail goes with it. Got this weird thing where their blog feed is .atom. And then also the featured image is horizontal. Whereas most Pinterest pins, you want them to be vertical and portrait. Those have just been some things I've run into with Shopify. And so I'm still looking for an RSS feed that addresses those issues with Shopify.
So with Shopify, it's hard to get an RSS feed directly, because even when you look at the products, I noticed something with Shopify's sitemap. When you look at the products, it will say question mark from equals, then it will give you product numbers to and some weird value numbers, but that's like a unique set ID. that shows how your Shopify site is different from somebody else's. It's like a unique ID. So they don't really have an RSS feed because you're working from a developer. You buy the theme, you upload it, and it's not like WordPress where you have to plug in something externally to add to the surface. So it's a little different, and that's why Shopify and Wix have their own differences. But without having to worry about that, you can still rank really well and perform with those platforms.
Yeah, I'm going to put it on my never ending to-do list to go onto the Shopify app store and research these RSS feed. There's probably some sort of version of a Shopify app for the RSS feed. But I want to shift gears back to our time in Clubhouse. And this is such a random story, but I had to tell you because whenever I think of Clubhouse, I always think back to this time where I was in a room and this girl was in the shower and you could hear the shower going. But that was like so Clubhouse to me. It was like it didn't matter where you were, you could join the conversation. And even though it was like weird, it's like you got it too. And so like that time of Clubhouse was just like a time like no other.
Now, that was amazing. I remember those days because you wake up on Clubhouse, you sleep through the app, and you're connecting with people. You're like, oh my goodness, like what? What am I hearing? And then sometimes you might hear some noises. You're like, oh, somebody got a hot mic. And then you don't know who it is because the stage is so big. It's another call.
Yeah, that was funny. And it was great because you didn't have to get dressed and ready. It was just people sharing ideas, especially in 2020 where people were so separated. We had to physically be separated. Clubhouse made it possible for us to feel connected again. And
Yeah.
so like I will always have like just a warm place in my heart for you and for CJ and for Tamara. It was just such a fun time to still feel connected to other people. And then we had the time and space to grow. And whatever we learned that day, we had the time to go put it into action and check it out and explore it further. And so it's just a magical season, I think, for businesses.
Yeah, I feel like that was the rocket fuel that we needed to have a jetpack for what we're experiencing now. Because I feel like that moment was very precious. Those 7 a.m.s were very precious. They were dedicated. They were 365. We were like, why are we doing this? But we knew why, because we had a big vision. We had a big goal. And look at us now, because you think about podcasting, everyone is starting a podcast now. When at the time we were starting a podcast on Clubhouse, or just through conversations. And now we're like, okay, we're going to take this on. And even for me, I said, you know what, instead of just using this on Clubhouse, why not expand and just go beyond the walls of Clubhouse and open it up to the podcast? And that's how I even got into Clubhouse, because of the podcast.
Wow. And that's crazy. And now you're so smart, like you're using your Clubhouse conversations on your podcast. So you're doing one of my favorite things, which is multi-purpose content. You're like, well, how do you even say that? Repurposing content from Clubhouse onto your podcast. And then I haven't been on Clubhouse in so long. Like the last time I logged in, everything looked completely different and I was lost. I was like, oh no, this isn't what it used to be. I felt like one of those people that was like so nostalgic of returning home 30 years later and their house completely changed.
Yeah, Clubhouse has totally changed. And I think when they made that big change, that's when everyone left. Most people did. And they were like, oh, this Clubhouse is not really ranking. It's not really doing it for me. But my question was, what is your why? Why are you coming onto the app? Some people came for friendship. Some people came for partnership. Some people got married on the app. Some people are lifelong partners right now. Like, it happens in so many diversity of ways. And I also feel like this is also a great time for people to see, okay, what's the real intention? And I've been on there, it's 4 years now on Clubhouse strong. And I've seen so much growth, connected with so many people. I've had so many events to go to, conferences to be at. And I feel like we just have this nice big family. So like you coming here to the show is, hey, we're still Clubhouse OGs, because we've had that much time to spend off the app and still give value. But the app has definitely changed. And even when the app started, I remember SEO wise, there was no Clubhouse articles on Google. So I used to type in, what is Clubhouse? And I said, you know what, I'm going to create an article about Clubhouse. And even till now, those articles are still showing up on the Google search results years later, with those archived screenshots of how Clubhouse used to be, still there. So I feel like that's also what gives people that respect and that credibility over the person that they're connected with online. over time.
I had written some articles myself, but I've switched websites a couple of times since then and haven't republished articles. I've got some pins that are not going anywhere, which is probably hurting me. But yeah, it was just such a fun time. And it was such a great time too, because I had just had my heart event. And so I remember I was like on my way to cardiac rehab, but I'm on the treadmill trying to have conversations on Clubhouse. It was just ridiculous. But that's how much it meant to me, is just like to stay connected.